Hello, and welcome to the Get Lean and Eat Clean podcast. My name is Brian Grin. I'm a certified health coach, trainer, and author. And this podcast is for middle-aged men and women looking to optimize their health and get their bodies back to what it once was 10 to 15 years ago. I will give you simple, actionable items to get long-term sustainable results. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. All right, welcome to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. My name is Brian Grin. I hope you had a great weekend. Happy Tuesday if you're listening to this on Tuesday. And hopefully you listened to my interview with Menno Henselmans. Was an exercise scientist, and we touch all about, he brought up a bunch of cool studies, one regarding carbs and some misconceptions around that and muscle growth. We also talked about overcoming comfort eating, eating around your workout. I wanted to know his routine. So he went through his routine. I'm a big fan of, just learning from other people's routines and what we can gain from that. So definitely check out my interview with Menno. And today I wanted to touch on, I know I say this a lot, but I feel like this comes up a lot, this topic around eating nutrient dense foods, because if I'm getting interviewed in maybe like another podcast and they ask me one of the keys, and I think one of the keys to having a successful fast is eating satiating foods that are full of micronutrients. And, that's not always easy all the time. But I think if you're aware of foods that can create satiety and bring you these essential micronutrients, then, you're sort of getting your best bang for your buck, right? Yeah, maybe it's a little more expensive, but you're eating less of it. It's a lot easier to overeat processed carbs than it is to overeat something that's a whole food like eggs, ribeye, seafood. So I think if you can wrap your arms around some of the, I'm going to name some today, some nutrient dense foods that you can add in from time to time, I think it'll make, it'll clean up your diet, but it'll also help, if you are getting into doing some fasting, it'll help those fasts go a lot easier. Because we all know that it's a lot easier, like I mentioned, if you're having, that's why, you have dessert, you can overeat that cake, but if someone brings another ribeye to the table, it ain't happening. You're not going to be able to eat it. So it's all about controlling cravings and, wrapping your arms around satiety. And, yes, are you still going to be hungry from time to time? For sure. I mean, especially if you're used to eating at certain times, but if you have nutrient dense foods and add in some of the ones I'm going to mention today, it'll help you in an enormous amount of getting through times where, maybe you don't want to snack and overeat during meals. So I thought it would be a great topic to talk about today. And my buddy, Marty Kendall, I had him on the podcast, good guy. I actually going to look to probably get him back on the podcast. He has a cool website, and I'll put a link to it, called optimizingnutrition.com. And they talk a lot about like these nutrient dense food charts that they have. And we'll touch on a few of them today. But I love the quote that he has in it. And it says, "Your diet doesn't need a name or a belief system, just enough nutrients." And I think we've gotten a little bit caught up in all the rhetoric behind, well, are you carnivore? Are you keto? Are you vegetarian? Are you vegan? And I like this quote: "Your diet doesn't need a name or a belief system, just enough nutrients." So if you're getting enough nutrients, your body will be happy, and that's all it asks for. So also, my buddy Brad Kearns has a carnivore score chart. It's a little more weighted towards the meat and fish side, but there's a lot of similarities between the charts. And I'm going to just touch on just a few from each category, so you can pick and choose. But let me touch on, and I'm going to go to Marty Kendall's chart where he talks about nutrient dense plant foods. Plant foods I like to add in from time to time to my meals, as long as you can digest them and you're not getting upset stomachs. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I know there's a lot of carnivores who can't, and that's why they eat mainly meat. But if you can add in some plant foods, you're getting fiber, you're getting, just the water weight of the food that's filling and satiating. And actually, the number one on his chart is watercress and then spinach. I wouldn't go with spinach every day just because it's fairly high in what's called oxalates. But spinach is number two, asparagus, Swiss chard, parsley, broccoli, okay, bok choy, chives, nori. We got cauliflower, lettuce, zucchini, broccoli sparks. For me, mushrooms is down there. I like to add mushrooms. We like to add mushrooms, maybe some tomatoes, and cook them. Cooking's a lot easier, rather than just eating them raw. So add in some, adding in these nutrient-dense plant foods can really go a long way. When it comes to animal foods, the carnivore chart that Brad Kearns and I have talked about in the past, the similarities, we got liver, number one. Now we got beef liver, chicken liver, and then lamb liver. And if you're thinking to yourself, I want nothing to do with it, I've eaten beef liver quite a bit. My wife will make it every so often. I don't think you need to have liver every week, maybe every few weeks, maybe at least once a month. Because if you think about it, conceptually wise, actually, I listened to another individual who was on Brad's podcast just think about the animal as a whole. It's mainly muscle meat, right? The organs are just a small part. So they didn't have organs all the time. If you think of it like ancestrally, our ancestors would have those sawed out organ meats from time to time because it was only a small part of the animal. And then obviously they would eat, the rest of the animal. So I think if you construct your diet that way and have liver from time to time, you don't have to have it every week. If you want to add it when you don't feel like eating it, ancestral supplements, there's a few companies that make these freeze dried 100% grass fed organ capsules. So you can check that out. After the liver, you got the whole egg. And if you can tolerate eggs, most people can, some people can't. I do love eggs. I add them into my meal almost every day. And, that's not the most expensive thing, right? Eggs aren't that, they've gotten more expensive, but, you want to get pasture raised and make sure that it's from a good source. So maybe from a local farmer. So you got eggs after that. And then you get into duck eggs and you got pork. I don't really eat pork, but then you get into some chicken and roast beef and filet. So ribeye, we have a lot of ribeye and filet from time to time. Very blessed to we buy it from a few different sources. You can check out US Wellness Meats. They have a huge supply and you can usually get a discount as well. So those are some of the nutrient dense foods. One of the things, those are some of the nutrient dense animal based foods and plant foods. Now, one of the things that I think is a great sort of way to get these foods in and it not going to kill the budget is Brad likes to call them the smash family, which is sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, or herring. So if you like any of those, that's a great, convenient, affordable way to get these omega-3s in, these wild caught oily cold water fish. So I like to add sardines and mackerel in from time to time, obviously salmon and herring as well. Not a big anchovies fan, but you could add those in from time to time if you like them. And then after that, really it comes down to what are some of the seafoods that you should go for. I mean, we love finding, if you really find a good wild source, Vital Choice is a brand we've used before. Also Seatopia. Seatopia is really cool. They have almost like sushi grade, all different types of fishes, sushi grade, and it's actually farm raised, but they raise it in the environment that it should be raised in. So you're not getting microplastics and toxins that might be coming from the ocean. So pretty cool company. I'm looking into that company more and more. So nutrient dense seafoods, what are tops on the list? Cod, mussels, oysters, mackerel. There you go. You got mackerel, shrimp, and caviar. I don't really eat caviar. Salmon and sardines and tuna. So these are items, especially like sardines and tuna. You can get that and it's not overly expensive and you're getting a quality nutrient dense food. So I just think it's important to have this in mind when whether you're getting into fasting or not, obviously. I mean, the less processed, the better. And all these foods obviously don't have labels on them. So, focusing your meals around these quality proteins is going to make your fast a lot easier, and it's going to keep you satiated. And, you're getting protein as well, which is obviously, the most satiating nutrient that you could have. So if you want to check out Marty Kendall's charts, I'll put a link for optimizingnutrition.com and also for the Carnivore scores chart from my buddy Brad Kearns. So hopefully this helps you just wrap your arms around finding nutrient-dense foods and adding them to your diet. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can email me, brian@briangrid.com. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll talk to you on Friday. Thanks so much. Thanks for listening to the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast. I understand there are millions of other podcasts out there, and you've chosen to listen to mine, and I appreciate that. Check out the show notes at briangrin.com for everything that was mentioned in this episode. Feel free to subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend or family member that's looking to get their body back to what it once was. Thanks again, and have a great day.